You can also use the index of a method to find some character or the position of characters in our strings. So let's say you are given this string, that is the name of President George Washington, and we understand that we start with the 0 and then we can go on and we have an index number with each of these characters. So a 0 will point to the first character, a 2 will point to the third character because our counting starts from 0, and similarly 6 will count to the 7 character. We have character 10 and the index position of the character 15, that is W, and G is the character position of the at position 10 in this string. So the if you want to return the position of a certain character in a given string, then you can use the index of method. Name is the name of our string, so name dot index of, we can call this method index of, and we can pass the string, and it should return the position or the index number of that character. So the index of E should be 2. The index of George, the complete string George, is equal to 10. The index of E starting at position 3. So you can also pass a starting point from where you want to count and return the position of a certain character. So you want to say that return me the position of E from this string starting from position 3. So it will ignore the first three characters 0, 1, 2, and it will start with the third one, and it will keep going until it reaches to a point where it can find an E. So it will return a 6 to me. Originally we have an E at position 2, but since we are ignoring the first three characters, we'll get index position of the first E that is found after index 3. So it start searching at position 3, and if you try to search for a certain string or character that is not there in our given string, then the index of method will return a -1 to us. So it is not found, and we can say that it is not found. We also have the last index of method that will return the index position of the last character that we pass to the last index of method. So we can see that although this is point, but this is maybe a drawing mistake, the character 15 or the index point 15 will be returned when we try to find out the last position of E in our given string. So it will keep going until it reaches the last position of E or any character that we have passed over here. So basically starts counting from the reverse of the string, and when it finds the first character, it will return the position of that string or character. So integer last index of takes a character argument, returns the position of the last occurrence of the character in this string, or -1 if it does not occur. And the last index of can take a character argument and a from index point, as we saw. For the index of, it will work the same. Returns the position of the last occurrence of the character, searching backward starting at the position from index. And there are two similar methods that take a string instead of a character as their first argument, as we saw in this example, that we can pass a string as well instead of the character to find the position of that string. So in order to understand what the index is, with character chariot method, if you pass an index or index of method, we pass a character or a string last index of method we pass a character a string. Just count characters starting from 0. So we are given this string with substring from. This is the position from where we want to start the counting, and substring from 2. When we pass 2 arguments, it will be the starting position and it will be the end position, or one less than one more than the end position. It works better to count positions between characters. She said hi. So for example, substring 4 to 8 is, if start counting the characters, 0, 1, 2, 3 should end over here, and then we have said will be written from position 4 to 8. So 0 will be S, 1 will be H, 2 will be E, 3 will be the space, and 4 will be the S. So 4 to, and D is 7, so it will return to us the 4, 5, 6 and 7, that is one less than the 2 point as we saw over here. And the substring 8 to 12 should return, since we are using this escape character, so it should also count these as well, the double quotes as well. So it should start at position 8 up to position 11 and return that to us. If index of this comma is 8, then substring 0 to index of 8 is she said, and substring index of the comma you can plus 1 is high. So we can, for example, if we want to return from position 1 next to this one, you can pass on the character, and then you can add a 1 to it, or any number of points that you want to go ahead from that point, and you can use this as an index to this substring, and it will return that part of the string to us. Now to look at the example uses of the index of method and the last index of methods, we can see that we are given a string, and we can, for example, want to know the position of C in the string, so we can use the index of, and that character you want to print the position of A starting at point 1. So at position 1, this will be ignored, the first A will be ignored, and it will try to look for an A in the rest of the string, and we'll see if a position of the string is returned to us, of the character A is returned to us, and we will try to look for a character that maybe we cannot see, apparently not see in the string. We can also, last C is located at, if you read this statement, we can return the position of the last C in the string, we can return the position of the last A in the string up to from a certain position, and we can also return the position of the last character that is not there. As we saw that we can also pass strings to the as arguments to the index of, and def is a string, and we want to return the position of this substring from our given string, and we can also pass this or look for this substring from a certain point in our string, and we can also look for a string that is apparently not there in our given string, and we can also use the last index of exactly the same way as we used it for characters. So we can, if we want to find a part of the string, we can use the last index of as well, and this one will be a last index of from a certain position, that is 25, and this will be the last index of a string that is not there in our given string. So if we look at the output and try to match our understanding, C is located at index position 2. If we look at this string now and try to match this with our output, C is position located at position 2. As you can see over here, A is located at index 13. Although we have an A at position 1, but what we asked our method index of was to ignore the position, to start from position 1 in the string. That is, this one is at position 0. So this one will be ignored and it will try to look for and maybe try to find an A, and this has identified an A over here, which is the position 13 according to our index of method. Then we are looking for the dollar symbol and we cannot apparently see the dollar symbol in our string, and it has returned a -1. So if it does not find the character, it will return a -1. Similarly, last C is located at index position 15. If we look at this, it was maybe possibly talking about this C. Last A is located at 13, so this was the last A in our string. Last dollar symbol is located at index -1, which is again not there in our string. Similarly, DEF is located at index 3. If you look at this, it has returned the position of this substring that we asked our index of method, and DEF is located at index 16. So if you wanted to look for DEF after the position 7, then it has looked for this position, the index position of this DEF. Again, it has found out another DEF and returned the position of that DEF after position 7. If you look at the code again, if we are trying to look at for a string that is not there in our string, part of a string that is not there in our string, so hello is not there and it is returned -1 to us. Last DEF is located at index 16. Again, last DEF is located at index 16. Even if you are looking after a certain position, then that index was position are at 16. And again, if we are looking at the last index of hello, that will return a -1. We have also methods for measuring the equality of strings. Now we have this method equals, and it returns a boolean value that if word 1 is equal to word 2. Returns true if the string word 1 is equal to word 2. Boolean B, word 1 equals ignore case, will ignore the case of the strings and try to compare if they are the same strings. Returns true if the string word 1 matches word 2, case blind. Since we understand that Java is case sensitive, so if we have words with exactly the same spellings, or we have two exactly same words but with different cases, the first one or the equals method will return a false. But if we have the same two words with the ignore case, then this one will return, the equals ignore case will return a true. We have these examples. Readers that equals readers, it should return a true. Readers that equals readers should return a false, since the case of these two strings is not the same. Readers that equals ignore case read with different cases will return a true, since we are ignoring the case of this reader or this string. If team that equals ignore case readers system dot out, you go, so you can print the name of the team even if it is in capitals or if in is in small case, if it is in capital case, or if it is in small case. We can also have comparisons of string. So word 1 dot compared to word 2 will return the difference, or word 1 minus word 2. Word 1 dot compared to ignore case, word 2 will work the same, but with the ignored case or case blind, it will return the difference of word 1 minus word 2. Usually programmers don't care what the numerical difference of word 1 minus word 2 is, just whether the difference is negative, word 1 comes before word 2, 0 word 1 and word 2 are equal, or positive word 1 comes after word 2. And this is the kind of output that we will be looking for in this comparison. For example, if word 1 comes before word 2, then we should get a negative number. If word 1 and word 2 are the same, if they are equal, then we should get a 0. Or if word 1 comes after word 2, then we should get a positive number. And these are often used in conditional statements. We will look at examples of the using comparison methods. So for one, this is kind of an example where we can use the compare to method. It wants to see if word 1 comes after word 2, then maybe do something. Comparison examples, let's say apple dot compare to berry. So we can go to the ASCII values of these numbers if you want to go to the detail of how this comparison is done. But we can look at these characters in the string and maybe figure out how this comparison is done. So an apple compared to berry should return maybe a negative number, and zebra, the capital Z, comes before the small a. That is how you are going to compare it. And if you have like D and D, these are the same, but you can see that DI should come before DU. Similarly, if you have a bigger number, digs is bigger, although the rest of the spellings are the same, but digs is bigger. So apple compared to apple should return 0, and all of these should return a negative number. So all of these should return a negative number, since when this string comes before the string that we are comparing to, it should return a negative number. So these should return negative numbers. This should return 0. Dig compare to ignore case should return a 0, since these are equal, and these should return positive numbers because B comes after A, so to return a positive number. Berry compared to apple should return a positive number. Small apple compared to big apple should return a positive number, since smaller a comes after the capital A. Capital bit compared to capital big should return a positive number, since T comes after G. The first two characters in this one are the same, but since T comes after G, so this should return a positive number. And similarly, this should return a positive number, since huge compared to HUG or hug, huge is the longer number over here. To look at the example code of how we can use these methods, the different equality and the comparison methods, we can see that we are given at least 4 strings. We have string s1 initialized using a constructor to hello. We have string s2 initialized to a literal string, s3 initialized to a literal string happy birthday with capital H and B, and we have string s4 initialized to happy birthday with all small characters. s2 is initialized to goodbye. Initially we would want to print all the strings, and if you want to compare s1 that equals to hello, then you should return a true since s1 is equal to hello. But if you perform the same comparison using the equality operator, then you should get a false, because these are not the same objects. S1 is a completely different object than the literal hello. This is a literal anonymous object that has hello in between these two double quotes. This is a different object than this one. For this kind of comparison, we will need the equals method that will look at the text of this string and try to match it with this object. So this one should return a false to you, since we cannot compare these two different objects with the equality operator. Equality operator will work fine when we compare the same objects. Similarly, we can also use equals ignore case. So if you want to compare s3 with s4 by ignoring the case, since s4, if you remember, is happy birthday with all small characters, and s3 is happy birthday with a capital H and a capital B. So when we ignore the case, they should be the same strings, and if we do not ignore the case, this will be different strings, since Java does not ignore the case by default. Java is case sensitive. Using the compare to method, we will compare, let's say, s1 to s2. S1 is hello and s2 is goodbye. Now hello literally comes after goodbye, H comes after G, so this may be return a positive number to us. Similarly, comparison of s2 to s1, G comes before H, so this should return a negative number, meaning that a goodbye comes before hello. Although metaphorically that might not be true, but literally that is how it is. And comparing s1 to s1 should return 0. Comparing s3 to s4, now capital letters have higher priority than small letters, so this should return a negative number, since capital happy birthday comes before small happy birthday. And if you look at the ASCII values of these characters, then you will realize a capital H comes before a small b, a small h. Similarly, if you compare S4 to S3, then S4 should come after S3, since it has all the small characters, and this one should return a positive number to us. We can also use another method that will compare part of the region of one string to another string. So if you want to compare or match first 5 characters of S3 and S4, then it is a boolean value which return to that to us. And again, starting from position 0, the first one will not ignore the case of the two strings, and they should return false or does not match this the second one. And if you pass a true, this will ignore the case of the two strings and compare the first 5 characters of those two strings. And in this case, since both of the strings are happy birthday, if you ignore the case, then this one should return a true. So region matches takes part of the string and compares those characters of the string, for example from 0 to 5, starting at position 0 of S3. It will compare the first 5 characters of S4 with the first 5 characters of S3 and return whatever the output is. So let's check. So initially we were printing our strings. S1 equals hello, that is true. S1 is not the same object as hello. We are trying to compare it using the equality operator, as we can see over here. This one output is return since S1 is not the same object as hello, and S1 equals hello has been returned to us. Then we were trying to compare, let's say for equality, if S3 and S4 are the same strings when we ignore the case of these two strings. So happy birthday equals happy birthday with case ignored. In this case we have ignored the case, and that is obviously becomes the same string. Now we are comparing the strings using the compare to method, and we will see that since S1 comes after S2, if we look at this, S1 is hello and S2 is goodbye. So H in hello comes after G, that is why hello comes after goodbye, and this has written a 1. And if you compare S2 to S1, it should return a -1 since goodbye comes before hello. S1 compared to S1 returns 0 since the two strings are equal, and S3 compared to S4 should return a minus value, a negative number, since S3 has capital H and the priority is of a capital character is more than the smaller characters, so it will return a negative number. S4 compared to S3 will return a positive number for the same reason. S4 is bigger than S3. Finally, for the region matches method, we want to compare first 5 characters of S3 and S4, and the first case they do not match. This one is returned because we are not ignoring the case. This one is case sensitive. To ignore the case, we will pass a true as an argument at the start of the region matches method inside the two parentheses, and it will ignore the case of these two strings, and now we get the first 5 characters of S3 and S4 match with case ignored. Looking at some other string methods, one of those methods is trim. So for example, we have a string, one word, and we want to trim that word. What it will do is it will return a new string formed from word 1 by removing white space at both ends. It does not affect white spaces in the middle. So for example, we have this string word 1, it has a white space at the start and a white space at the end of the string. What should do is, for example, if we want to remove these white spaces, and this might be quite useful in some of the string processing or text processing applications where you want to remove the extra spaces from a given text, then you can use the trim method. So what should happen is these initial and the following spaces should be removed, and the new string would be saved in word 2. So word 2 is now hi Bob with no spaces on either end. Word 1 has not changed since strings are not changeable, they are immutable. We have a replace method that replaces one character with another character in a given string. So you have a string word 1 and you want to replace one character with another character in that string and store that string in another string word 2. So what you should do is you would pass the old character and the new character that you want to replace it with to the replace method on the word 1 or any string that you want to change. Then it returns a new string found from word 1 and the new string will have replaced all occurrences of old character with the new character. So we have a string word 1 is equal to rare, string word 2 is equal to rare dot replace, or you can also use word 1 dot replace, or should be replaced with D. So word 2 is whatever the word is, DADE, but word 1 is still rare since strings are immutable. We can also change the case of our strings, and we have seen some of examples of this in our previous discussion. So if you want to convert a string to the uppercase, you have the to uppercase method. If you want to convert a string to lowercase, you have the to lowercase method. Returns a new string found from word 1 by converting its characters to upper or lowercase. So we have string word is equal to hello with some capital letters. Word 2 is equal to word 1 dot to uppercase. It will convert all of the characters to the capital letters. Word 3 is equal to word 1 dot to lowercase. It will convert all of the characters to the lower letters. Example, to convert word 1 to uppercase, replace the references with a new reference, and this is something that we will need to do. For example, if you want to change the word 1 string, then you will need to reassign that word 1 to the word 1 again, otherwise it will not change. So it maybe you can call it a common bug. One word to uppercase, one word will not change since we understand that strings are immutable. So if you want to change the word 1, you would reassign that word 1 with the new state to the word 1 again or any object again. Finally, if you want to convert numbers to strings, then there are three ways to convert a number into a string. One is by adding it to a string. So if you add it to an empty string, the number will be converted to a string. You can use the wrapper methods, for example integer.toString, and then you pass on the number that will be converted to a string, and for the double.toString, the d is the number, it will be converted to a string and stored in s. Integer and double are wrapper classes from java.lang that represent numbers as objects. They also provide useful static methods. So s is equal to integer.toString 123 will be converted into a string. S is equal to double.toString 3.14. 3.14 will be converted into a string. If you want to read the value of a number, then you can use the value of method and passing out then this is the third way of converting a number into a string. You can store it in a string object. So s is equal to string dot value of 123 will assign 123 in the form of a string to s. This will conclude our lecture. Over here we will discuss these examples in the code. Let's look at some example uses of these methods. Let's say we are given three strings. S1 is equal to hello, S2 is equal to goodbye in capital letters, S3 is equal to a string with spaces at the start and the end of the string. Initially we print the three strings. If you want to use the replace method, you can call the replace method, let's say on S1, and you pass the old character. Let's say you want to replace the L with the N. So all the L's in the string S1 will be replaced by the N. If you want to convert S1 to all capital letters, then you can use the two uppercase. If you want to convert the S1 into all lower letters or small letters, then you can call the two lowercase method on S1. If you want to remove the spaces from the start and end of this string S3, then you can call the trim method on S3. You can also convert a string into an array of characters and store it in an array of characters as well. So two character array will convert the string into an array and store it in an array, and then you can go on and print that array. So let's look at the output of this code. So we have these three strings. As you can see, we have replaced all the L's in our string S1 with the N. So hello, this is S1, has now become hello or whatever the letter is. We can convert it to all capital letters. We can convert it to all small letters. We can trim the initial spaces and the ending spaces from our given string, and we can also convert our string into an array, store it in array, and print the array the same as we print our string.